You realize how serious this is. We found the tracks leading right to this garage.
I haven't left all night. Mind telling me why you're here so late? Just finishing up some work, officer.
Marcus Reed felt engines in his bones, the steady hum beneath his palms, the faint tremor of horsepower waiting to ignite. But tonight, standing outside his dimly lit auto shop, all he felt was a cold barrel of flashlight beams slicing across his face. "Hands where I can see them," Officer Kellen Drake barked. Marcus froze, keys still dangling from his fingers. A slow wind dragged dust across the concrete. Somewhere inside the shop, a wrench rolled off a cart and clattered sharply. Too loud in the tight, charged silence. "I'm locking up," Marcus said quietly. Drake stepped closer, sneer curling. "At this hour? Sure you're not stripping cars? These people love that sort of thing." Marcus's stomach knotted, not from fear, but from a familiar burn of humiliation. He forced his voice steady. "This is my shop." Drake laughed, a short, slicing sound. "Your shop? Right. And I'm the president's personal driver." A second officer, Ruiz, lingered by the cruiser, eyes averted, pretending to check his radio. Marcus noticed bystander silence, the kind that screamed louder than aggression. Drake leaned in, breath war with arrogance. "Open the garage. Now, unless you want cuffs." Marcus's pulse thudded. Inside that garage sat the project he'd worked on for weeks, a prototype engine built for a presidential motorcade contract he wasn't allowed to speak about yet. One wrong move and Drake would tear it apart out of spite. Marcus lifted the door slowly. Drake's face changed, and then a harsh click. A radio call crackled. Drake's hand went to his holster. The night tilted. The garage door rattled upward, the metal groaning like it shared Marcus Reed's dread. Cold night air surged inside, brushing against the polished chrome of the prototype engine he'd spent months perfecting. Officer Drake's flashlight beam snapped toward it instantly, slicing through the shadows like a hunting knife. "What the hell is that?" Drake muttered, stepping forward without waiting for permission. Marcus forced his voice calm. "A commissioned build. You don't have jurisdiction to—" Drake cut him off with a bark. "I have jurisdiction over everything suspicious in this town." "That's not suspicious," Marcus said. "That's engineering." Drake's smirk widened. "Engineering? From you?" The word stung. Not because Marcus hadn't heard them before, but because of how casually Drake tossed them out, as if black skill were an impossibility. Officer Ruiz hovered near the doorway. "Kellen, maybe we should—" "Stay out of it," Drake snapped. "I'm conducting an inspection." Marcus stepped between Drake and the engine. "Then show me the warrant." Drake leaned in, breath heavy with disdain. "You want to play lawyer tonight? Cute." "It's the law," Marcus said. Drake tapped his badge. "This is the law." For a moment, everything inside Marcus went silent. The engine behind him hummed faintly, its cooling system still warm from earlier testing. Drake's boots thudded on the concrete as he circled, flashlight beam gliding across tool chests, workbenches, spare parts. "What's this?" Drake kicked a crate. "Parts of the build," Marcus said. "Looks like stolen components to me." "They're not stolen. They could be—" Ruiz shifted uncomfortably. "Kellen, maybe we should get confirmation before—" "Before what?" Drake snapped again. "Before this guy hides evidence?" Marcus exhaled slowly. "I'm not hiding anything." "That's what everyone says right before they run," Drake said, stepping closer again, chest puffed. "You don't look like someone designing anything that matters." Marcus met his gaze. "You don't know what I do." Drake scoffed. "I know exactly what you do. People like you don't build engines. You fix flat tires for cash and hope nobody checks your background." Marcus clenched his jaw. "Dialogue. Keep him talking. Keep him away from the prototype-sensitive components." "Officer Drake," Marcus said quietly, "I would like you to leave. Is that right?" Drake leaned back, amused. "You don't get to ask me to leave." Marcus felt heat at the edges of his vision. "This is my property." Drake's eyes gleamed. "And I'm saying it might be a crime scene." "A crime scene for what?" Marcus demanded. "I'll figure that out," Drake said. Maybe it's unregistered equipment. Maybe it's a legal modification. Maybe you're trafficking parts. That's ridiculous. Is it? Ruiz took a step forward. Marcus, maybe just let him look. It'll be easier. Marcus turned sharply. Ruiz, you know this isn't right. Ruiz swallowed hard but didn't answer. Drake moved to Marcus's tool chest, opening drawers, rummaging, tossing aside wrenches. The clatter echoed through the shop, each sound a violation. Stop touching my equipment, Marcus said. Not your call, Drake replied. Unless you've got something to hide. I already told you. Drake raised a hand. Save it. Marcus breathed deeply. Remember the project. Remember the contract. Remember what's at stake. Drake bent toward the prototype engine again. What's this for? Client confidentiality, Marcus said. Oh, please, Drake laughed. You expect me to believe some high-end client hired you? Marcus didn't answer. Drake's smile turned predatory. Thought so. Ruiz finally spoke again, voice strained. Kellen, let's just file a note and leave. There's nothing here. Drake ignored him, dragging a finger across the polished chrome. This your big dream, Marcus? Impressing people? Proving you're more than you are? Marcus held his ground. I don't have to prove anything to you. Funny, Drake said softly, because you look like you're about to break. Marcus's hands curled into fists, but he kept them at his sides. Drake stepped back, then suddenly withdrew a citation book. Fine. If you want to play stubborn, let's make this official. For what? Marcus asked. Improper equipment storage. Drake said. Possible violation of hazardous materials handling. Suspicious activity after business hours. That's not a real charge. It is tonight. Ruiz looked pained. Marcus, I'm sorry. Drake scribbled aggressively, tore the citation, and shoved it into Marcus's chest. Consider this your warning. Next time, it won't be paper. Marcus didn't move, didn't blink. Drake leaned close, voice dropping to a venomous whisper. Learn your place. Marcus felt the words land like a blow. Drake stepped back, gesturing Ruiz outside. We're done here. They turned to leave. The cruiser's headlights spilled into the shop, long silhouettes stretching across the floor as the officers walked away. Marcus stood alone in the dim glow of the garage, citation trembling in his hand. He looked at the engine, his life's work, his future, his attempt to rise, and for the first time in years, he wondered if someone with a badge could steal all of it with a single lie. Morning sunlight washed over his shop's faded parking lot, revealing everything last night had bruised. Marcus stood outside, sipping bitter coffee, watching dust dance in the warm breeze. The town usually woke slowly, bread trucks, joggers, the hum of engines, but today something felt off. Heads turned, conversations quieted, doors shut a little too quickly. The rumors had already begun. Mrs. Holloway's silver sedan eased into the lot, then immediately stopped. She rolled down her window halfway. No farther. Marcus, dear, she called gently. I'm so sorry to do this, but I think I'll have to cancel today's appointment. Marcus stepped closer. Is everything all right? She bit her lip. I heard something. People are saying the police were here last night, that they found suspicious activity. He exhaled sharply. They didn't find anything, because there's nothing to find. I know, sweetheart, she said softly, but her eyes darted away. It's just, with everything going on, I have to be careful. My son says there was a report about a mechanic involved in stolen parts. A report, Marcus repeated. Already? I'm sorry, she whispered, turning her wheel. I really am. Her car pulled away like a slow apology. Marcus watched it disappear, jaw tightening. Inside the shop, he flipped the open sign but wasn't sure it meant anything anymore. The bell above the door jingled 20 minutes later. He looked up, then froze. Officer Ruiz stood in the doorway, not in uniform. Denim jacket, worn sneakers, eyes shadowed with guilt. Marcus's voice cooled immediately. Shop's open for customers, not officers. Ruiz lifted his hands. I'm off duty. You're still a cop. I'm here to help you. Are you? Marcus crossed his arms. Because last night you watched Drake tear into my property like I was a human being, and you didn't say a word that mattered. Ruiz swallowed hard. I tried. You stood there. Marcus cut in. Silence helps the man holding the weapon. Ruiz flinched as if struck. Look, I didn't know he was going to file something so fast. So there's a report, Marcus said. Ruiz nodded slowly. He filed it before his shift ended. Said you were acting evasive. Said you obstructed an inspection. That's a lie. I know, Ruiz whispered. But once it's in the system, it sticks, and he's planning to add more. Marcus stared at him. Why? What does he get out of this? Ruiz hesitated. Power, control, and he hates feeling challenged. You stood up to him. He'll see that as disrespect. I stood up for my rights. That's not how he'll frame it. Marcus leaned against the counter, rubbing his temples. So what now? He keeps stacking lies until someone decides I'm a problem worth removing. Ruiz looked down. Marcus, he wants you flagged. That means you'll get pulled over more. Watch more. Maybe inspected by departments you've never even dealt with. He called it tightening the leash. Marcus's stomach twisted. I'm not a dog. I know you're not. Ruiz took a shaky breath. And I'm sorry I didn't stop him. You could have spoken up, Marcus said. Really spoken up. You don't understand what crossing him means, Ruiz said quietly. He has connections everywhere. If he decides to bury someone, he buries them. Marcus's voice hardened. And you're okay being part of that? No, Ruiz said, eyes glistening. I'm not. That's why I came. Marcus studied him. Guilt lived in the man's posture. Fear, too, but also something else. Conscience twisting under the weight of complicity. What do you want from me? Marcus asked. I want you to protect yourself, Ruiz said. If you have proof, documentation, anything, keep it safe. He's pushing harder than usual. He wants to win, and he's chosen you. Marcus shook his head slowly. Why me? Ruiz hesitated again. Because you didn't bow your head. Because you didn't let him intimidate you. And because he swallowed, you don't fit his idea of who should succeed. Marcus let the silence sit heavy between them. Ruiz stepped closer. Talked to internal affairs. Marcus gave a humorless laugh. And tell them what? That their golden officer is harassing me? That he's inventing violations? That he's trying to ruin my business? Tell them exactly that. They won't listen, Marcus said. You've seen how this town works. You file a complaint, and suddenly you're the one being watched. Ruiz's voice cracked. If he goes too far, someone will get hurt. Maybe you. Marcus stared at the prototype engine across the shop. He imagined Drake putting his hands on it again. Imagined the future slipping away because one officer decided Marcus didn't deserve it. I can't let him win, Marcus murmured. Ruiz nodded. Then prepare. Document everything. And Marcus looked up. Ruiz's eyes trembled. If he decides to bury you, he can. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. You need to be ahead of him, Ruiz whispered. Marcus exhaled slowly, the weight settling into his bones. Then he said, Get out, Ruiz. Ruiz hesitated. Marcus. Get out, Marcus repeated, voice unreadable. Ruiz lowered his head and left quietly, the bell above the door chiming a mournful note. When the shop was silent again, Marcus walked to the workbench and opened a drawer. He pulled out a small folder, receipts, certifications, client approvals, photos, timestamps. Evidence of who he really was. Evidence Drake couldn't erase. He set the folder on the counter and whispered to himself, If the system is built to crush me, then I'll build something stronger. Outside, someone lingered in the parking lot, watching him through a cracked window. And the rumors kept spreading, faster than truth, sharper than any blade. The testing facility sat behind 2 layers of fencing and a guarded gate, tucked into the outskirts of the county, where most locals forgot it existed. Marcus parked his truck and stepped out into the crisp morning air, clutching the folder Ruiz's warning had compelled him to double-check twice before leaving. This facility was one place he could breathe, where skill mattered more than skin, where his work stood tall even when he felt small. The guard at the checkpoint smiled when he saw Marcus. "Morning, Reed. They're expecting you." Marcus nodded. "Thanks." Inside, the echo of machinery comforted him. Engineers in tailored jackets inspected engines worth more than most homes. When Marcus entered the main bay, a woman with silver-rimmed glasses and a commanding presence approached him. "Marcus," she said warmly, "good to see you." "Ms. Garner," he replied, shaking her hand. "I've finalized the calibration." She raised a brow. "Already? You're fast. Motivation helps." He didn't elaborate. She gestured for him to follow. "Your prototype has generated some excitement. 2 members from the Presidential Motorcade Planning Committee want to look today." Marcus stiffened. "Today? Is that an issue?" "No," he said quickly. "Just unexpected." She studied him. "You seem tense." He considered telling her that a police officer had ransacked his shop, that lies were spreading, that his life's work now hung by threads only he could see. But the contract's confidentiality clause felt like chains around his tongue. "I'm fine," he said. "Just focus." Garner didn't believe him, but she nodded anyway. The demonstration room shimmered with polished floors and clean, sterile air. His prototype sat center stage, elevated on a reinforced platform, spotlights framing its metallic curves. 2 officials in dark suits approached. One extended a hand. "Mr. Reed, we've heard exceptional things about your build." "Thank you," Marcus said. The other officials circled the engine. "This level of precision, uncommon. How long did it take you?" "Months," Marcus said, "plus a lifetime of learning." They smiled approvingly. "Show us what you've got," Garner said. Marcus powered up the system. The engine came alive with a deep, steady resonance, the kind that vibrated through ribs, the kind that promised safety at high speed. The officials watched with fascination. "This is extraordinary," one murmured. "We'll be recommending this for the secondary motorcade line," the other said, "pending final review." For a moment, Marcus allowed himself to breathe. When the demonstration ended, Garner patted his shoulder. "You did well. Take the day to rest." He thanked her, gathered his tools, and left the facility, mind divided between pride and dread. On the drive back, the unease returned like a shadow settling over the passenger seat. He was 10 minutes from town when flashing blue lights erupted behind him. Again, he pulled to the side, gripping the steering wheel. Officer Drake approached with slow, deliberate confidence, as if savoring the moment. "Mr. Reed," he drawled, "fancy seeing you again." Marcus kept his tone level. "Is there a reason for this stop?" "I'll ask the questions." Drake leaned into the window. "Where you headed?" "Home." "Where you coming from?" "A job." "What kind of job?" Drake smirked. "Oil change? Tire patch." Marcus inhaled. "I don't have to answer that." Drake chuckled. "Oh, we're doing this again. Cute." Ruiz sat in the passenger side of the patrol car, eyes down. He didn't look up once. Drake tapped the roof of Marcus's truck. "Step out." "For what reason?" Marcus asked. "Suspicion." "That's not a reason." "It is today." Marcus stepped out, feeling heat rise through his body. Drake circled him slowly. "You've been out of town. Long drive. Lots of places to stop. Lots of things to pick up. Or drop off." Marcus shot back. Drake's eyes hardened. "Watch your tone." Marcus stayed silent. "What job were you at?" Drake asked again. "No comment." Drake laughed loudly. "No comment? What are you, a politician?" He leaned closer. "You're a backyard tinkerer pretending you're something bigger." Marcus clenched his jaw. "You don't know anything about me." "I know enough," Drake said. "I know people like you chase fake dreams until reality smacks them down." Marcus met his gaze. "Your assumptions will cost you one day." Drake's nostrils flared. "Not in this town." The tension pressed between them like a metal beam on the verge of snapping. Finally, Drake stepped back. "Get out of here. But I'm watching you. Every mile. Every move." Marcus got in his truck and drove off, heart pounding, anger and fear mixing like incompatible fuels. The road bent gently toward town, but Marcus felt something darker approaching. A storm with a badge. A man with the power to twist truth until it strangled him. He whispered under his breath, "Keep calm. Keep moving." But Drake's words clung to him like oil on skin. Not in this town. Marcus knew then this wasn't harassment. It was a campaign, and it had only just begun. The next few days unfolded like a slow-moving wreck Marcus couldn't escape. Every hour brought a new disruption, a new reminder that Drake's badge wasn't just authority. It was a weapon he wielded with precision. It started with a knock on the shop door at 7:12 a.m. 2 municipal inspectors stepped inside, clipboards ready, eyes rehearsed with suspicion. One of them spoke first. "We received reports of improper chemical disposal." Marcus stared at them. "From who?" The inspector didn't answer. "We'll need to look around." "You got a warrant?" Marcus asked. "This is a civil inspection," the man said flatly. "We don't need one." Marcus stepped aside, jaw tight, as they combed through every cabinet, every storage bin, every corner where a stray drop of oil might justify their arrival. After an hour, they found nothing, but the inspector still jotted notes. "Expect follow-up communication," he said before leaving. Marcus watched them go, chest heavy. Drake was moving fast. At noon, a woman from the town council arrived, her heels tapping disapproval as she entered. "Mr. Reed," she said crisply, "I've received concerns about your business compliance. Noise violations, suspicious traffic entering and leaving late at night, possible unauthorized equipment." Marcus blinked. "Ma'am, with all due respect, none of that is true." She held up her hands. "I'm not accusing you. I'm simply telling you what's been reported." "Reported by who?" She adjusted her glasses. "I can't disclose that." Marcus felt the walls closing in. "My shop has been complying for years." "Why now?" She sighed as if the inconvenience weighed on her personally. "Look, Mr. Reed, I'm trying to help you. Keep your records clean. Ensure your permits are updated. Make sure you're not giving anyone a reason to escalate." "Anyone?" Marcus repeated. "Or a specific someone?" She flinched, too subtle for most, but not for Marcus. She knew exactly who was targeting him. "Just keep things orderly," she said, turning to leave. "The council is watching." As she walked out, Marcus whispered to the empty air, "I bet you are." An hour later, a delivery driver pulled up with the wrong shipment. Again, when Marcus called the depot, they said Drake had contacted them, claiming his business was under investigation and should be flagged. It was chaos in slow motion, death by 1,000 bureaucratic cuts. By late afternoon, Marcus felt drained. He sat at his workbench staring at the prototype schematics, but his focus drifted. The edges of the blueprint blurred into something hollow. When the bell above the door jingled again, he nearly didn't look up, but then he heard the quiet voice. "Marcus." Officer Ruiz stood inside, uniform on, hat in his hands. Guilt smeared across his expression. Marcus didn't move. "You shouldn't be here." "I know," Ruiz murmured, "but you need to hear something." Marcus gave a humorless laugh. "Let me guess. Drake filed another complaint?" Ruiz swallowed. "Worse." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Marcus, he's planning something. Something serious." Marcus's spine straightened. "What do you mean?" Ruiz hesitated, eyes darting to the windows. "I walked into the supply shed behind the precinct. Drake was there alone, holding a small evidence bag." Marcus's breath faltered. "What kind of evidence bag?" Ruiz closed his eyes briefly. "The kind that ruins lives." Marcus felt his pulse thud in his ears. He was going to plant something. He said he was tired of waiting for this guy to slip up. He said he needed insurance. Ruiz rubbed his forehead. "I tried to talk him down. I told him he was going too far. He told me to shut up and remember my rank." Marcus stepped back, feeling the room tilt. "So he's just planning to frame me?" Ruiz nodded. A long, suffocating silence spread between them. "Why are you telling me this?" Marcus whispered. "Because it's wrong," Ruiz said, voice cracking. And because I can't stop him alone, Marcus stared at him. You could report him. To who? Ruiz shot back. Internal affairs? Half of them owe him favors. He's covered by the union, by old friends, by people who like his style of policing. And his voice faltered, I'm nobody compared to him. Marcus clenched his fists. You're a witness. And that makes me a target. Marcus stepped away, pacing. So what am I supposed to do? Sit here and wait for him to destroy everything I built? Ruiz shook his head. No, you document. You be careful. You don't let him near your property alone. Marcus, if he plans something, you could lose your shop, your freedom. Marcus looked at him with a mix of disbelief and fury. Do you hear yourself? This isn't policing. This is revenge. Ruiz nodded miserably. I know. Marcus pointed at him. And you're part of it. Your silence let him get this far. Ruiz winced as if the words were blows. I'm trying to make it right. Try harder, Marcus said coldly. The officer's voice trembled. He's coming by tonight. Marcus froze. Tonight? Ruiz nodded. I don't know when. I don't know what he'll do. Just be ready. Marcus stared at him for a long time, then said, Get out, before he sees you here. Ruiz swallowed, nodded, and left quickly, haunted by the truth he'd unleashed. The door clicked shut. The shop fell still. Marcus stood alone, staring at the tools on his bench. His hands shook, not from fear, but from an anger so deep it felt like molten metal. He whispered to himself, If the system won't defend me, then I'll defend the truth. He reached for a folder again, pulling out receipts, time-stamped photos, maintenance logs, contracts, armor in paper form. Outside, long shadows slid across the pavement as evening crept in. Marcus knew Drake was coming. And this time, the officer wouldn't settle for intimidation. He wanted destruction. 2 days later, Marcus stood inside the polished testing hall of the private motorcade facility. Far from shop, far from Drake's shadow. Here, the air buzzed with focused intensity and clean metallic scent. Engineers in tailored jackets walked briskly, murmuring over clipboards. The hum of high-end machinery wrapped around him like a familiar language. For a moment, he felt safe. Ms. Garner approached quickly. Marcus, good timing. The directors are gathering. Today's run is important. He nodded. Everything's tuned. She studied him. You look tired. He forced a smile. Long week. She didn't press. They entered the demonstration chamber, a wide, bright space with glistening floor tiles and acoustic panels. A handful of officials and senior engineers circled the elevated test bench, where Marcus's prototype engine rested under a spotlight. It shone like a sculpture. A man with a trimmed beard and refined suit stepped forward. Mr. Reed, we're eager to see what your design can do. Marcus replied, I'm honored. The room quieted. Cameras from the internal documentation team pointed toward him. Garner nodded. Marcus activated the system. The engine roared to life, not loudly, but with a deep, resonant authority. The kind of sound that suggested control, precision, and untapped strength. The room vibrated subtly beneath their feet. One official took a step closer. Incredible torque response. Another murmured, thermal efficiency beyond current models. A third said, how did you stabilize a vibration at high RPM? Marcus answered with technical detail, each word confident, each movement steady. Here, no one questioned his intelligence. No one stared at his skin. No one assumed he didn't belong. Here, his brilliance spoke louder than prejudice. When the demonstration ended, the officials exchanged impressed nods. Garner whispered, You did it. One of the committee members approached Marcus directly. We'll be recommending your engine for the presidential secondary motorcade line. Pending final inspection, of course. Relief washed over Marcus so strongly he had to exhale slowly to contain it. Thank you. But the moment of triumph didn't last long. A cluster of local news journalists entered the hall, escorted by staff. They were here to cover the motorcade evaluation. Not Marcus specifically, but fate had a way of tightening threads. One reporter, a young woman with sharp eyes, paused when she heard his name in conversation. Reed, she whispered. As in Marcus Reed? A cameraman glanced their way. The same one listed on last night's police blotter? Marcus's stomach dropped. He heard them before he saw them approach. Mr. Reed? The reporter asked, stepping closer. Are you the same man who was cited for suspicious activity at his auto shop this week? Garner stiffened. This is not an appropriate time for that. No, it's all right, Marcus said quietly, though his pulse raced. I have nothing to hide. The reporter clicked her pen. Do you deny the allegations? There were no valid allegations, Marcus said. Only assumptions. By Officer Drake, the reporter clarified. Marcus paused, choosing his words carefully. Some officers abuse authority. Some use bias as evidence. That's all I'll say. Journalists exchanged looks, surprised by his composure, intrigued by the story forming beneath the surface. The cameraman whispered, this is a narrative. Mechanic targeted by a cop, but also working on national-level engineering. Another reporter murmured, people will want answers. Garner intervened. We are here to discuss engineering standards, not local police disputes. But the spark had already landed. The journalists continued their coverage, periodically glancing at Marcus as though he were now a mystery worth unraveling. When the event concluded, Marcus stepped outside into the late afternoon sun. He felt proud, terrified, and exposed all at once. He was walking to his truck when his phone buzzed. A news alert. Local mechanic under investigation, but also designing engines for federal security? Marcus closed his eyes. Great. Across the lot, Garner approached him again. Don't engage the media without us. It could complicate the contract. I know, he said. And be careful, she added softly. Not everyone applauds when someone like you rises. Marcus nodded, understanding all too well. As he drove back toward town, the road curved gently, sunlight flashing across his windshield. But peace never arrived, because at the same moment, in a cramped office inside the police precinct, Officer Kellen Drake stared at the same headline, jaw tightening. He slammed the file onto his desk. He's trying to play hero now? Ruiz stood nearby, arms crossed, gaze low. Drake snapped at him. You hear me? He's trying to embarrass this department. Ruiz didn't respond. Drake paced like a cage threat. I'm shutting this down. Today. Before anyone starts thinking he's some kind of genius. Ruiz finally spoke, so quietly Drake almost didn't hear it. He is a genius. Drake froze. What did you say? Ruiz straightened, meeting his eyes. He builds things that protect people. What do you build, Kellen? Reports full of lies. The room went silent. Drake took a slow step forward. Careful, you're sounding real disloyal. Ruiz swallowed but didn't back down. Maybe loyalty shouldn't be blind. Drake's expression shifted into something cold. You want to defend him? Fine, but I'm ending this before he humiliates us. Ruiz's voice trembled. How? Drake smirked. By reminding everyone who he really is. Ruiz's eyes widened. Kellen, don't do anything reckless. Oh, Drake said, grabbing his coat. I'm done being patient. He stormed out, footsteps echoing with purpose. Meanwhile, miles away, a local news station began preparing a new segment. Local mechanic. Targeted or troublemaker? Marcus stared at the notification on his phone, feeling the shape of the storm forming around him. His engine had spoken for him today. But Drake wasn't done trying to silence him. The day after the motorcade test run, Marcus opened his shop with a heaviness he couldn't shake. His triumph at the facility felt like a secret he couldn't afford to celebrate. Not while Drake's shadow loomed over every hour. The local news segment had aired the night before, his face briefly shown alongside police footage of unrelated incidents. They'd raised questions without answering any, leaving viewers to fill in the blanks with bias or curiosity. He was tightening a bolt on a customer's engine when the bell over the shop door chimed. A woman stepped inside, mid-30s, brown skin, steady eyes, notebook in hand. Marcus Reed, she asked. He stood slowly. Yeah, who's asking? Talia Green, she said, offering a small nod. Investigative reporter. Marcus wiped his hands on a rag. If you're here for a quote on the police nonsense, I've already said everything I'm going to say. I saw that interview, she replied. But rumors aren't enough for me. I like facts. Marcus arched a brow. Most people like headlines. I'm not most people, she said calmly. I'm here because something about your story doesn't add up. And I don't mean your side, I mean Drake's. Marcus stared at her, searching her face for opportunism. He didn't see it. Still, he asked, "What do you want from me?" Talia walked deeper into the shop, eyes scanning the workbenches, the orderly layout, the framed certifications on the wall. To know the truth, and to record it, if you're willing. Marcus exhaled slowly. Truth has consequences. So does silence, she said. The words hung between them like a tightrope. Finally, Marcus nodded toward a pair of stools near the workbench. Sit. She did. Marcus began carefully. Drake's been harassing me for days, stopping me without cause, searching my shop without a warrant, filing complaints that don't exist outside his own imagination. Talia's pen moved quickly. Why do you think he's targeting you? You want the honest answer? I do. Because he doesn't like the idea of someone like me succeeding, Marcus said simply, and because I didn't bow my head. Talia looked up, meeting his gaze with quiet understanding. Do you have proof? She asked. Marcus hesitated, then pointed to the small security camera near the corner of the ceiling. It records everything, he said. But Drake's first search happened outside his range. Talia nodded. Anything from the inside? Marcus hesitated. Not from that night. She lowered her pen. Marcus, off the record, I've been digging. Drake is a pattern. Complaints that vanish, reports altered, dash cam footage that mysteriously glitches. Marcus clenched his jaw. And nobody holds him accountable? Not when the system benefits from his kind of policing, she said. He leaned back, exhausted. So what do I do? Keep telling the truth until someone believes me? Talia closed her notebook. Sometimes truth needs help being seen. Before he could ask what she meant, her phone buzzed. She read the message, eyebrows rising. Interesting, she murmured. What? A source sent me something. External camera footage. She turned the screen toward him. Marcus's breath caught. There, on grainy video from a nearby shop's outdoor camera, was Drake, searching Marcus's property without permission, rifling through bins, shining his flashlight into closed drawers. Ruiz stood nearby, shifting nervously. Marcus whispered, You have this? How? Anonymous leak, Talia said. Probably someone in the area who saw too much. Marcus felt a pulse of relief, brief, fragile. This proves he had no ground for filing anything. It proves misconduct, Talia corrected. But be prepared. People who abuse power rarely fall quietly. Before Marcus could respond, shouting erupted outside. He and Talia ran to the open shop door. Officer Drake stood in the parking lot, fists clenched, red-faced. You've been spreading lies about me now, he yelled. Marcus stepped forward. I haven't said your name publicly. You don't have to. Drake snapped. Everyone knows what you implied. People gathered on the sidewalk, drawn by the noise. Phones lifted. Cameras pointed. Talia stood slightly behind Marcus, filming. Drake jabbed a finger at Marcus. You think being on the news makes you untouchable? You think you can run around painting me as a villain? I didn't paint anything, Marcus said. Your actions do that for you. Drake lunged forward, stopping only when Ruiz ran from the cruiser and grabbed his arm. Kellen, stop. Get off me. Drake snarled. The crowd murmured. A teenage boy whispered, Is he really a cop? Drake heard it and turned even redder. Back up, he barked at the onlookers. Marcus said nothing. He simply stood still, steady, unshaken. That silence enraged Drake more than any insult could have. You're done, Drake hissed. You hear me? I'll make sure of it. Marcus looked him directly in the eye. Do what you want. Cameras exist. Drake froze, realizing belatedly that half the street had their phones pointed at him. Ruiz whispered urgently, Kellen, we have to go. Drake's face twisted in fury as he backed away. This isn't over. The officers left, sirens silent but tension deafening. Talia lowered her phone. That was telling. Marcus felt his hands tremble, not with fear, but with the weight of escalation. "Now you understand," he whispered. "This man will destroy me if he can." Talia nodded slowly. "Then let's give the truth the light it needs." Her voice was steady. Her camera, still recording, glowed like a small, defiant beacon. And somewhere in town, the video was already spreading. Into Chapter 6, 800 words. By morning, the video had spread across every local feed. Drake's shouting, his aggression, his attempt to intimidate Marcus while the community watched. The clip had been reposted, slowed down, captioned, debated. Some viewers defended him, but many didn't. For the first time, Marcus wasn't the one under a microscope. Drake was. And the officer felt it. Marcus woke to a dozen messages from customers, neighbors, and strangers. Some were supportive, some curious, some frightened, but all of them signaled the same thing. The town couldn't ignore this anymore. When he reached the shop, Ruiz's patrol car was already parked outside. The officer stood on the sidewalk, pacing like a man who'd swallowed dynamite. Marcus approached cautiously. "If you're here to deliver another citation—" "I'm not," Ruiz said quickly. "Internal Affairs want to speak to you." Marcus blinked. "What?" Ruiz looked haunted. The video forced their hand. They're opening an inquiry into Drake. For the first time in days, Marcus felt a crack of hope, so they're finally paying attention. Ruiz nodded but didn't smile. "It's complicated. He's denying everything. Claims you provoked him. Claims the video was edited." Marcus scoffed. "Of course he is." "He's also claiming you're involved in something criminal." Marcus stiffened. "Based on what?" "Nothing," Ruiz said. "But he's loud, and people listen when he talks." Marcus exhaled slowly. Typical. Ruiz hesitated. "Marcus, there's more." "What now?" "I got a message this morning. Anonymous drop." Ruiz reached into his jacket and pulled out a small USB drive. "It was in my mailbox." Marcus stared. "What is it?" "Evidence," Ruiz whispered. "Against Drake." They went inside the shop. Marcus locked the door and motioned to the workbench. Ruiz plugged the USB into a small laptop Marcus used for diagnostics. Video thumbnails appeared. Ruiz clicked the first one. A dim precinct hallway. Drake speaking to another officer, voice low, smug. "I'll get him one way or another. Guys like him don't deserve to climb." Marcus clenched his teeth. Another clip. Drake in a supply shed holding the small evidence bag Ruiz had described. "If he won't slip, I'll help him along." Marcus felt sick. A third clip. Drake editing a report on his computer, altering timestamps. Ruiz whispered. Someone inside the department recorded these. Marcus looked at him. "And they gave them to you?" "Because they can't risk exposing themselves," Ruiz said. "But I can." Silence settled like dust. Then Marcus asked, "Why?" "Why now, Ruiz? You could lose everything for this." Ruiz swallowed hard. "Because I already lost myself by staying quiet." Marcus studied him. The fear in Ruiz's eyes was real, but so was the resolve. "I have to turn this in," Ruiz said. "All of it," with a statement. Marcus shook his head. "Drake will come after you." "He already has," Ruiz murmured. "I heard him talking to a supervisor. He's blaming me for letting the situation escalate." "You could be suspended," Marcus said. "Or worse." "I know." Another long, quiet moment passed. Then Marcus said softly, "Thank you." Ruiz blinked rapidly, eyes glistening. "Don't thank me. I should have done this sooner." They drove together to Internal Affairs. The IA building felt cold, fluorescent, and indifferent. A woman in a gray suit led them to a small interview room with blank walls and a single camera. Ruiz sat across from the investigators, hands shaking. But when they asked for his statement, something solid clicked into place inside him. He spoke. He told them about the bogus citations. He told them about the planned evidence planting. He told them about Drake's obsession with breaking Marcus. He told them about the culture of fear inside the department. The pressure stayed quiet, the threats that floated like ghosts through the halls. And then he handed over the USB. The investigator's expressions shifted from skepticism to alarm. "This is serious," one whispered. "It's enough to move forward," the other said. Their whispers, though quiet, felt like thunder in Marcus's chest. After 2 hours, the interviews ended. Ruiz looked drained, his shoulders slumped, but his eyes oddly lighter, like a man who finally set down a weight he'd carried for years. Outside, the sunlight felt too bright. "You did something brave today," Marcus said. Ruiz shook his head. "I did something necessary." They drove back separately. When Marcus reached his shop, he saw something unexpected. 2 women leaving small notes taped to his door. A man leaving a wrapped sandwich. A teenager placing a folded card on the step. They looked at Marcus, hesitant. The older woman spoke first. "We saw the video. We didn't know it was this bad." Marcus didn't respond. Another said, "We're with you." One by one, more people came. Not many, but enough to shift the air. Enough to tell him the entire town wasn't lost. Inside his shop, Marcus finally let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. But his peace didn't last long. A deep rumbling sound approached. Marcus turned. A black, armored transport vehicle rolled into the parking lot, followed by 2 government SUVs. The presidential transport team. They were early. The vehicles parked with crisp precision. A suited officer stepped out. "Mr. Reed, we're here to pick up the engine prototype." Neighbors watched from porches and sidewalks. Phones rose again, not in suspicion but in astonishment. Marcus guided the team into his garage. They inspected the engine, nodded their approval, and prepared it for transport. As they rolled the gleaming machine out into the daylight, the crowd murmured in awe. Across the street, a familiar sedan pulled up. Drake's. He stepped out slowly, disbelief washing over his face as he saw federal vehicles loading Marcus's creation. His lips parted in stunned silence. For the first time, Marcus saw something in Drake's eyes he never expected. Fear. Real human, unfiltered fear. The crowd parted as Marcus walked forward, standing in front of the shop. No longer small, no longer cornered. Drake stared at him, paling. Marcus said nothing. He didn't need to. The truth was louder than anything Drake could ever say. Drake's suspension came swiftly, but not quietly. Internal affairs moved faster than anyone expected, propelled by Ruiz's testimony, the leaked footage, and the growing public outrage. What started as murmurs had become a county-wide tremor. Headlines blared. "Officer under investigation after mechanic harassment claims." Anonymous leaks revealed disturbing misconduct. Community questions policing culture after viral incident. Marcus watched it all unfold from the corner of his small living room, feeling both vindicated and hollow. Victory, he learned, didn't always feel like triumph. Sometimes it felt like exhaustion. By the second day, IA announced formal charges: falsifying reports, unlawful search, abuse of authority, attempted evidence tampering. Drake was escorted out of the precinct by 2 supervisors. No handcuffs, but no dignity either. Ruiz texted Marcus a single sentence: "It's happening." But even then, Marcus felt no peace, because the damage was already done. His business had lost customers. His sleep had thinned to fragile threads. His sense of safety, what little he'd had, was cracked. Trauma had settled quietly beneath his ribs, anchoring itself in ways he didn't yet understand. Still, life didn't pause. 3 days after Drake's suspension, Marcus stood in his shop as a representative from the Presidential Engineering Division arrived. A woman in a Navy suit shook his hand, smiling warmly. "Mr. Reed, we want to personally thank you," she said. "Your engine is exceptional. The committee is already drafting plans to use your design in the upcoming motorcade updates." Marcus nodded, humbled. "I appreciate it." She lowered her voice. "And if you need support, legal, public relations, anything, we can assist. What you endured shouldn't happen to anyone." Marcus wasn't used to offers like that. He folded his hands. "Thank you. Truly." When she left, he stood in the doorway, staring at the fading daylight, listening to the muted sounds of town life. The wind rustled, carrying remnants of dust and memory. Hours later, Ruiz quietly stepped into the shop. He looked different, lighter somehow, but also bruised by recent storms. "We need to talk," he said. Marcus nodded and gestured for him to sit. Ruiz sank onto a stool, rubbing his palms against his knees. "I'm not going to pretend things aren't a mess. Some officers won't speak to me. Others act like I betrayed them." Marcus met his eyes. "Did you?" "No," Ruiz whispered. "I betrayed who we were supposed to be." Marcus let the silence settle before speaking. "You did the right thing." Ruiz shook his head. "I did the right thing too late. I watched him go after you. I watched him escalate. I stayed quiet because I was scared of him, of losing my job, of making enemies." Marcus exhaled softly. "Fear controls more people than hate does. And Drake uses fear like a tool," Ruiz said. "He built his career on it." Marcus's expression hardened. "He tried to destroy me, Ruiz. My shop, my reputation, my future. I know." Ruiz's voice cracked. "And I didn't protect you when I should have." Marcus opened his mouth to respond, but Ruiz lifted a hand. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," he said. "I'm asking you to know that I will testify again. In court, in hearings, wherever they need me. I'll keep speaking until the truth outweighs the lies." Marcus considered him for a long, heavy moment. Finally, he nodded. "Then start by forgiving yourself." Ruiz's breath trembled, not with weakness, but with release. He stood. "Thank you, Marcus. Take care of yourself, Ruiz." When he left, Marcus sat alone, feeling the quiet settle over him like a thin blanket. Never warm enough, but better than the cold. The next week brought the hearing. It was held in a modest auditorium, packed with community members, journalists, and officers in stiff uniforms. Marcus attended reluctantly, knowing the story wasn't just his anymore. People needed to see what accountability looked like. They needed to witness the truth. Drake sat at a long table, jaw clenched, eyes sharp as broken glass. He avoided Marcus's gaze. Talia Green was present, notebook ready, camera at her side. Marcus sat in the second row, hands clasped tightly. The panel questioned officers, reviewed reports, replayed footage. Ruiz spoke with a steady voice, every word a strike against the silence he once maintained. When he finished, even the panelists seemed moved. Finally, Drake was asked to respond. He clenched the microphone. "This entire thing is exaggerated," he snapped. "I acted based on reasonable suspicion. This man," he jabbed a finger at Marcus, "was acting evasive, aggressive, and deceitful." Marcus didn't flinch. A panelist raised an eyebrow. "Mr. Reed is a government contractor whose design is being considered for presidential security vehicles." Drake scoffed. "People like him don't." A senator interrupted sharply, voice slicing to the room. "He builds engines that protect presidents." "What exactly have you built, Officer Drake?" The room fell silent. Drake's face drained of color. Marcus looked down, not triumphant, not vengeful, but deeply, achingly human. Because justice wasn't joy. It was clarity, and clarity could wound as easily as it healed. When the hearing ended, crowd members approached Marcus quietly. A man whispered, "We're sorry." A woman said, "We didn't know." A teenager murmured, "Thank you for standing up." Marcus nodded gently each time, but inside he felt tired. So tired. Back at his shop that evening, he flipped the sign to close and sat on a stool, elbows on his knees. The battle was ending, but the market left would linger. He whispered to quiet garage, "I survived." And somehow, that single truth felt like a lifetime's victory. A week after the hearing, the town felt different. Quieter, heavier, but also strangely open. People stepped into the shop with softer voices, more deliberate glances, as if acknowledging the space they once doubted. Marcus accepted their presence without bitterness. He wasn't interested in revenge. He was interested in rebuilding. One morning, a boy about 13 lingered outside the garage door, hovering like a shadow, unsure of its shape. Marcus finally waved him in. "You need something?" Marcus asked. The boy hesitated. I saw the videos. And the hearing. And you build engines for important people. Marcus chuckled softly. I build engines for whoever needs them. Important is relative. The boy shuffled his feet. I want to learn. About cars. Engines. How they work. Marcus studied him. The uncertainty, the hunger to rise, the quiet courage to ask. He saw himself at that age, hands dirty, heart hopeful. What's your name? Marcus asked. Dion. Well done. Marcus said gently. You want to learn? Then come after school. I'll teach you. The boy's face lit up. Really? Really? Dion nodded quickly, as if afraid the offer might disappear. Then he ran off, sneakers slapping against pavement. Marcus exhaled. A new beginning, small but real. Later that afternoon, he visited the local middle school where a teacher had invited him to speak. The classroom buzzed with chatter until Marcus entered, toolbox in hand. Kids leaned forward with curiosity. He told them about engineering, resilience, and the power of building things that last longer than anger. He didn't talk about Drake, not by name, but he spoke of obstacles, of systems that doubted him, of the importance of choosing creation over destruction. A girl raised her hand. Were you scared? Marcus paused and smiled gently. Yes, many times. But fear doesn't mean stop. It means go carefully. The teacher's eyes glistened. When he returned to his shop, a letter rested on the welcome mat. The seal was official. Marcus opened it slowly. Mr. Reed, we are pleased to invite you to continue developing advanced systems for the Presidential Motorcade Program. Your expertise is invaluable, and we look forward to future collaboration. Marcus lowered the letter, heart full, but not in the explosive way he once imagined. This was quieter, deeper, earned. At sunset, he stood outside the garage as the sky faded to amber. He lifted the metal door, and it creaked just like the night Drake first arrived. The sound no longer made him tense. Instead, it felt like a doorway into something better. He looked around his shop, scarred, tested, standing. You've held up, he whispered. Inside, tools rested neatly. The floor gleamed. Dion's new set of gloves waited on the bench. Maybe justice wasn't a single moment. Maybe it was a series of roads, some rough, some smooth, all leading somewhere new. Marcus stepped back, watching the last sliver of daylight settle across the concrete. May the world learn, he whispered, to end the roads that harm and build the ones that heal. The shop lights flicked on. A new chapter waited.